guy's got a ready quip for everything. I mean, he's a really funny individual. But I want to get into something about stand-up comedy. First of all, I'd like to know how you got into this thing. What made you feel that this was the venue for you?
Well, as a kid, I was always told that I was funny, and I actually hated it. I didn't like it. So, like, even in the scene from Goodfellas, when Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta says to Joe Pesci, "Oh, you're funny," and Joe Pesci's like funny like a clown, whatever. That's exactly how I always felt. Even in my 20s, when people say you're funny. Um, I got into comedy 13 years ago. Once I started my sobriety. I'm in sobriety 13 years. So when I had lost everything, just the bottom just crashed, fell underneath me, everything. And that's when I got into comedy. Um, was it always in me? Yeah, I think it was. I think I really was. Comedy does come from pain. Um, and uh, and that's like the easy part is comedy is one of the hardest things to perform. From what people say and what how people react to, like, when they're asked about comedians and all that. To me, it comes rather easy. I mean, I'm just myself. I like being funny. I like being witty. I like you know. But people like to laugh at others' tragedies.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. You just said something. Comedies from pain. Comedians are notorious for being depressed. You don't seem like a depressed individual, but I don't know you. I don't know. Maybe you have your bad times. But that pain, it comes out on stage, but it's like a therapy session to a certain extent where maybe you don't have to pay a psychiatrist. Maybe you just go through all your laundry out on stage. Does it work that way, or am I off base?
Listen, the beauty of humanity is the individuality. We're all different. And I have this joke that I use when I'm on stand-up. I says, if you think your life is like really shitty and you're having a real bad day, invite a comedian over your house and you see how shitty their lives are. So and make you feel a whole lot better. Um, you know, I guess, like, throughout the years, you hear about all these comedians that are committing suicide and, depression and all that, and it's like even Rodney Dangerfield, he found himself many years later. And, there's I have a friend of mine that ran into Rodney. It was like, it was during a snowstorm, and he turns around and he sees Rodney in the streets of Manhattan, and he's walking like in sleet and snow, like, and he's got his slippers on. It's a true story. And he turns around, he hears Rodney Dangerfield's voice on a corner, like he's ready to cross the street, and Rodney's walking his dog, and he's yelling at his dog. He's like, "What do you want from me? Eh? It's not my fault it's snowing." And he's talking to his dog. And my friend turned him on. He said, "Greg, I couldn't believe it. It was actually Rodney Dangerfield." Now, Rodney Dangerfield, he's been through a lot in his life. Back then, he had, he was struggling with addiction and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, me personally, uh, I came from a very dysfunctional family, and there was no communication. We didn't have the barbecues and all that stuff. Growing up in an Irish, German, Italian neighborhood, moving into the United States, immigrated here in 1971. There was a lot of drama, a lot of fear, growing up with a lot of stuff. And I guess somehow all that just works its way in, and it just plays in together. And now today I could talk about it and laugh.
Well, you brought it up, so I'll hit on this. 13 years ago, what was your moment of sobriety? If you had one, an epiphany, can you cite an actual moment, Greg, that you said, "I've had enough"?
Um, I don't know if you know my story, but I was 385 pounds.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you didn't do no research, huh?
No, I did, but I didn't know that part. I saw you were heavier, but I didn't know how much.
Heavier wasn't the word, but I was a cargo.
You know what I saw? I saw you from
Heavier, really. Uh, Yeah, I was 385 pounds. I was my choice of drug is alcohol, but along with alcohol comes with cocaine and then crack cocaine. So I was the fattest crackhead in New York City.
I was going to say you're supposed to be skinny, malnourished when you're a cocaine freak, right? But you were the opposite.
Yeah, because there's a strategy to that. You smoke crack, you're on a mission for 2, 3 days nonstop, and then you go home and you like eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, depression, and yeah, you'll gain the weight, believe it or not. But actually, my best friend kind of grabbed me. I grew up with him, and he saw me that throughout the years how I was just hitting rock bottom, and he came and grabbed me one day. He said to me, "Listen, man," he goes, "I don't even know who you are anymore. You gotta straighten yourself out." And he grabbed me, and Monday morning, March 2nd of 2011, we went to Phoenix House, and I went in there. I got evaluated, and they told me that I had to go to a bar and have a drink before they would accept me, because in order to go to detox, you have to be drunk.
Really?
So my friend was waiting for me downstairs, and I went down. He goes, "Everything okay?" I said, "Yeah." I go, "I got to go to the bar." He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah, they're gonna pick me up at the bar. I have to get a couple of drinks in me before they can accept me in detox."
Dude, yeah, detox. I can see it, but that's a little ridiculous. But what you did, what you had to do, and that's what you had to do. And so the alcohol, the coke, and other drugs, we won't even get into it. But these two played a big part in, I guess, your early days and your development. You're not really viewing things sober. You're seeing things in a different way now. When you finally came out of this haze of yours, did things change for you? Did your comedy change? I mean, did you find yourself looking at life
I
a
never,
different way?
I was never on stage when the first time I'm on stage is when I got sober.
Okay, so that propelled you into your career.
Right, right, exactly. When you lose everything and there's nothing else, no hope or nothing at all, there's like, hey, what the hell? I might as well just go for it. That's exactly what happened.
Did you face everything with the same kind of courage and the same kind of confidence when you were
I didn't
sober?
even think about it at all, to be honest with you. I had this woman that came into my life out of nowhere. I tell this story to people and they look at me, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, she was your angel," whatever she was. I used to drink at a bar right up the block from my house called Purcell's. And I had met this woman. She was from LA. She came in and she started bartending at a local bar, neighborhood place. And she used to tell me all the time, she used to say, "Greg, oh my God," she goes, "You're pretty funny." I was like, "Oh, I got to hear this again." She goes, "No, you're pretty funny." And then that's when I went away. And when I went away for 3.5 months, I came back. I went back to the bar. I didn't drink though. I started hanging out because, and one of the things in the program they say is like people, places, and things. But I had all my life I was drinking and partying, and I had nowhere to go. So I went back over there, and she saw the change in me. I had lost close to about 100 pounds at the time. I was 385. So when I got back out, I was 285. And she said, I always wanted to tell you, I could get you on stage. Would you be willing to get on stage? And I was like, uh, you know, I don't know. And she goes, "Listen to me, trust me." And she got me on the Clayton Fletcher show on a Friday night at New York Comedy Club, the old New York Comedy Club, the original one. And I said, "Yeah, go ahead, do it." And I invited 10 of my friends, and out of 10, nobody showed up. They thought I was nuts. They were like, "All right, Greg really lost his mind now."
Did you invite 10 guys from the neighborhood or?
Yeah, 10 guys from the neighborhood, and the person that got me on stage was there with me. And then one guy finally showed up late, and he ended up heckling me, which was hysterical. But Clayton Fletcher, he watched the whole set, and I kind of improv the whole thing. I didn't do any kind of research. I just talked about like what life was. I mean, I could, to this day I can still remember the first line. I got on stage and I said, I want to thank everybody for coming on stage. And I said, whoops, I'm on stage, you're over there. And people started laughing, and I could feel his vibration. And I just started talking about, like, eating, rearranging people's menus, like, who wants lettuce and tomato? Put some mozzarella cheese on there, and stuff. And people were laughing. And at the end of the show, Clayton Fletcher came up to me and said to me, "That was your first time ever on stage?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You've never been on stage before?" I said, "No." He said, "Wow." He goes, "Congratulations, you're gonna go places." I said, "Yeah, I'm going back to Astoria."
And you had nothing prepared, right? You didn't have 10 minutes, 8 minutes. You had nothing. You went.
Eight
You went up.
minutes. I
You,
did eight
you,
minutes.
you didn't prepare those 8 minutes.
Nothing. It was just like talking to people. And
Told us
then
a
and
story.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you just told a couple stories off the top of your head, improvisation style.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you
Right?
ever done stand-up? Have you ever done any kind of like comedy?
I'm an actor. I did stand up 2 or 3 times. Not my cup of tea. I'd rather be in a. I'm better with sketch comedy and that kind of thing. But you have a thing immediately. See, some people are funny and some people aren't funny. You can't make an unfunny guy funny. I don't care if you give him the best material in the world. You can probably read the phone book and you probably make people laugh. And
Yeah,
that's a gift you have. Same thing with an actor. That's a gift you have or you don't have. You can't put it there. Do you agree?
I agree. I think people have a calling. There's a reason for everything, and my calling, and unfortunately, I had to like lose everything in my life. I got into comedy at 48 years old.
What'd you do
But
before? What were you doing before that? Before comedy, what were you doing?
I was running a security firm uh, at One Course Island Plaza, and it was totally. I have so much material on that; it's not even funny. But my boss ended up screwing Washington Mutual for like $97 million. It was all over the news, and about 600 of us lost their job.
If you're going to do it, you may as well do it big, 97 million. But so this whole time before now, how long had you been using before you got clean?
I started using probably at the age of 24, 26.
All
And
right, so
then,
you're talking a good 25 years.
yeah. But, as a user, it's a very progressive disease. It escalates and gets more and more and more. And my choice to drug was always alcohol. And then from there, and cocaine, that's it, alcohol and cocaine, but different forms of cocaine, obviously crack at the end, you know?
It's quicker. From what I'm told, I'm not a drug person. I'm not an alcoholic. I never, that's not my thing. I have my faults, believe me, but those aren't my thing. Always fascinated with that kind of thing. I have no idea why, but it's just tremendous that see when people fall off and well, before they recover, they get pretty much as bad as you could possibly get, and then they usually, Greg, go back. I've rarely had a case where I heard someone quit and they stayed clean. But you managed to do that for 13 years. Is it a day-to-day struggle? Is it an everyday thing where it's in your mind?
Well,
You have to fight it?
well, in order to keep it, I have to give it away. I belong to different organizations. I do a lot of sober comedy across the country. I have sponsees that I work with. And I spent 7 days of detox, and then from there I spent 3.5 months of rehabilitation in Phoenix House. And I remember sitting down in Phoenix House at 48 years old, and this gentleman was called in to speak. And I've never been in a closed meeting. And this guy came in, and he had done he was doing he was released from the penitentiary. He did 40 years, and he spoke about the addiction of drugs and prison and all that. And he walked in and he looked at there must have been about 50 people in the room, and he looked at us, and he said, "Half of you are not going to make it." And then he stopped and he looked at us again and repeated himself. He goes, "Half of you are not going to make it." And I was like, what is he talking about? I had no clue because, I had no idea what, that all this that I went through in my life, all the pain and suffering and everything was all a direct thing that had taken over my life and that caused all this, addiction, and the addiction.
Oh, we froze. I hope if you can hear me,
It,
now I got you.
Right.
We're froze.
Hello?
Go ahead, continue. You froze for a minute. Go ahead.
I said we all have the addictive personality in us. Some people like to go to the gym a lot. Some people are workaholic, sexaholic, whatever it is. So balance is very important for us. But what I'm trying to get at is that, I drank to silence the noise in my head. As a young kid, going through a lot of depression, a lot of fear, all that stuff. So when I picked up a drink at the age of 18, it kind of silenced the noise in my head. And I like that feeling, because alcohol will lie to you. Alcohol will tell you you're a great dancer, you're a great lover, you're an amazing actor, you're an amazing everything. Alcohol does that to you,
You medicated yourself the best way you knew how, and once you felt that feeling once, it was something you wanted to search for again. And that's how dysfunctional was that childhood of yours?
Well, my mom got hit by a drunk driver when I was 12 years old. And in order to keep her alive, they had to amputate her leg.
Oh, my goodness.
So, I grew up with a handicapped mom, and they amputated above her kneecap. If you know anything about amputation, like, below the knees, much easier. Above the knees, harder. So my mom never wanted to come to the United States. My dad was a famous soccer player in Greece, very famous, Athanasios Kritikos, very well known in the Greek community.
Sure.
And he played soccer at a time where they didn't pay him. They didn't pay people. So he decided at the end of his career, he became a shoemaker. And then at one point he said, we're going to go to the United States. And my mom didn't want to go. My dad was like, listen, I'm going to go.
You're frozen again, Greg.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and you're frozen again. If you can hear me, just give it a second. Maybe it'll come back, or we have to reconnect. All right. He's frozen, honey. Reconnect with him. Oh, okay. I'll call him.
Hello?
Yeah, now we got, okay. Go say something, Greg.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now I can. You just keep freezing for some reason, but go ahead. If you freeze again, maybe we can reconnect again or something. Let's see let's keep going. Go ahead. You were saying if you need to, what is it? Okay, if you need to reconnect, if you freeze again, just log out, log in again. My wife says she's the tech genius in this house. Go ahead, Greg.
So, what part did you hear up to?
I heard when your mother amputee and above the knee, that type of thing. Go from there.
Right. So, my dad was a pro soccer player in Greece.
Yep.
Very well known, very famous, and he played at a time where they wouldn't pay soccer players back then. They had parades, parties, and stuff like that. So, like a lot of people, they immigrated, from Greece to the United States for the American dream. So my dad wanted to come to the United States, and my mom didn't want to go. So my dad settled out. He went out And 6 months later, we followed, and my mom was just very unhappy, very unhappy, very negative, and there was constant bickering for 5 years. So my dad says to her, he goes, listen, let's just stick around for a little while. We'll see what happens. He opened up a local shoe repair shop. He said, and we'll stay here for like 5 years. If nothing happens in 5 years, then we'll go back to Greece. And on the 5th year is when she got hit by a drunk driver, believe it or not.
Oh boy. Oh boy. And
Right.
what kind of guy was your dad?
My father was, he was a dry drunk. He didn't drink, but he had a very, very rough childhood. He was raised by an alcoholic stepfather. And that's one of the things that are very challenging for him is watching his son, me, drink. He never drank, my dad. So he couldn't understand why I would drink. He couldn't understand these things. He was a very serious person. Later on, he became president of the Kritikos. He represented a part of Greece. He was very well known in the United States over here in Astoria. Very respectable, knew a lot of people, and he wasn't too happy with me because as my life, progressed and my disease progressed, and I ended up going to Rikers Island back in 1988. So I did some time also. Yeah, it was very challenging for him to see me grow like this.
Yeah, I mean, your father probably, of course, if you're not, you don't have the propensity to drink, you can't understand somebody else's plight. And it's really strange how they say it's hereditary, but sometimes hereditary, maybe a couple of generations, not necessarily your father, but maybe it was in your family. The way you're wired has something to do with to me, I think it goes back in a family type of way. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with you. But I also agree that, it depends on the individual, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
of course. And
and
how?
we all have a hole in us. I tell my sponsees all the time, I tell them, you're an alcoholic. You have a hole in you.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
I work with, a lot of young boys, a lot of young kids, you know what I'm saying, young men. I've lost a lot of them, you know. This disease is out to kill people every day. One of my sponsors used to tell me this disease will put a dis-ease in your life every single day. How you choose to live life is how you're going to progress in life. And how I choose to live life is I choose to be sober. I choose to live in the moment. I don't worry about yesterday. I don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's never promised to nobody. I like to live in the moment. I stay in the moment. And so far, it's been fine.
Did you ever have the same problem with food? Is that
Oh,
why you
yeah,
became so?
absolutely. Well, that's why I was 385 pounds. So when I went through withdrawals back in March 2nd of 2011, I was, so much sugar, eating food, because don't forget, I quit like alcohol, coke, and food all in one shot. Boom. Um, when I went into detox 7 days, I was sweating so much that the nurse on the floor actually thought I had alcohol with me. I had snuck a bottle of alcohol inside. And I was like, no. She's like, oh, man. She goes, this room smells like alcohol. I was like,
It's coming out of your body. It's just coming out of your body at such a rate.
yeah, exactly. So, but I was, obese. I was 385 pounds, man. I was forget about it. I thought I could send you some pictures later on. You'll see the pictures, but
And you mentioned about the sugar. That's an addiction. I mean, your body becomes adjusted, and you know something, when you stop it, you actually get the shakes. You get the
yeah,
cold sweats and the shakes. People don't realize what sugar can do. It's a drug, in effect. In that quantity, it's a drug. It really is.
sugar is also laced in tobacco. A lot of people don't know that.
Say it again. I missed that.
Sugar is also laced in tobacco.
Really? No, I didn't
Yes,
know.
people don't even know that. If you
No.
Google sugar laced, it gives you all the information. That's why people love to smoke. There's sugar in the tobacco. It's laced together.
Were you a smoker too? Are you a smoker?
Absolutely. No, I quit everything. I don't. March 2nd in 2011, I got sober. January 1st, 2012, I quit smoking.
I mean, my father smoked, it's from 12 years old to 70 when he passed, could never took a drink, Greg, never did anything. Well, big gambler, but smoked like a fiend. I
Yeah.
tried, I tried desperately my entire life, Greg, to get him to stop. Dad, come on, man, you're killing yourself. He ended up dying because of it. But that addiction is a terrible addiction. That's a very very difficult one to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Smoking is a terrible addiction. Now, listen, anything that controls your life, is an addiction. That's the bottom. People like, well, there's nothing wrong with marijuana. Yeah, okay, but if you wake up in the morning and you need to smoke a joint and you can't function without being stoned, it's a problem.
Psychologically, you're addicted. You may not be physically, but you're addicted.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 1000%. That's exactly what happens.
And what do you think? Now, you brought it up because this is my pet peeve. I talk about it on the radio constantly, Greg. Everywhere you go, there's that reeking of pot, smelling pot. You can't walk down. I walk down 9th Avenue, Manhattan. It's just, it envelopes me. It's ridiculous. I can't take it. Do you think it's as tame, as harmless, as they say, being a former addict yourself?
Again, it all depends on the individual. People call it a gateway drug that once you start, it opens up the door to other things. I know kids growing up with friends of mine that they were big potheads and they never escalated that. Like, that's it. It was pot. That's it. They never did anything else other than that. And other people, they started with pot. From pot, they went to coke. From coke, they went to heroin. Alcoholics, whatever. It all depends on the individual, man. If I learned anything in life, it's the beauty of humanity's individuality. We all so different creatures, but it's the way we approach things, what we like, and balance is the most important word in my life today. Balance, which is not easy. You have balance.
Now, I didn't intend on going down this road for so long, but it's interesting to me. But I thought we'd talk comedy more so than we have. But it's really interesting how, you came from the doldrums and really rose to, your success right now. I assume you're successful. You're making good money at something you love right now. Are you doing well financially?
Absolutely. I do this full time. I shot a sketch comedy. I don't know if Nick told you about 6 years ago called The Slice with Ben Rosenfeld. And we altogether came to close to 18 million views. It's about
Wow.
an angry pizza guy, right? And Catch a Ball Productions just picked it up not too long ago. I don't know if I sent it to you. Did I send it to you? The Connie Show. It's The Connie Show, Conny, The Connie Show. And we just shot the pilot, and now we're writing 10 episodes, and we're hoping to start filming in 2025, the whole first season.
Do you want to get more into your acting?
I like acting, I have a couple of movies that I produced. My last movie I wrote and produced with Kelly LeBrock and Burt Young, called Tomorrow's Today. It's on Amazon Prime.
There's a name from the past, Kelly LeBrock. Wasn't
Yeah.
she the woman in red?
Well, the Woman in Red, and she also played in Weird Science.
Weird
Everybody
Science.
remember? Yes, Weird Science. So I worked with her and Kelly. I worked with so I actually started that's the first movie that I started writing. And my partner, in comedy, he does all my graphics and everything, is Mike Rockwitz. He was the youngest colorist and editor to work with Stan Lee in Marvel Comics. So I'm surrounded by a lot of talented people, and together we're doing things, and I have a couple of productions that are coming out. I'm working on a movie right now that it's in the final editing process, called Scarred Angels with Noah Forrest and Don Sill, and that's going to be in competition. We're going to put it in film festivals. So I'm living my dream. I get paid for what I love to do, and I'm a happy camper.
That's
But
the key.
if I don't get it done, there's nobody out there like knocking the door saying, "Hey, Greg, we want you in my movie." So if I don't get my own thing out there, then nothing's gonna happen.
Definitely not. You got to be assertive. You got to keep pounding that door down, until it opens. It used to be, back in the old days, Greg, as an actor, I used to actually physically go door to door to seek representation, agents. It's a whole new ball game. You mentioned
Right.
how the virtual thing isn't really your thing, but unfortunately, that's the way business is done these days. You don't even have to meet the person. You talk like we're talking right now, but to me, it's just not the same. To me, you got to be in the same room sometime, don't you think?
Absolutely. I don't think it's being with somebody face to face. You get an idea of who they are and what they're all about. And I just that Zoom virtual stuff, I don't know, I'm old school, you know what I mean? And but yeah, unfortunately, agents sometimes they send me emails and they're like, "Oh, we feel like this might be a good part for you." And now I'd rather go in person. You could see me live right there, and I'll do whatever you want me to do,
Yeah. Well, you get the idea of someone's persona when they're actually in the same room.
Absolutely,
Until
1000%.
we actually meet, and I shake hands with you and we see each other, I really can't. Can I really say that I know what you're all about if we just talk this way for the next 5 years? I mean, doesn't work that way. You
Right,
know, the way people meet these days, men and women, they never see each other. They
right.
have kind of a relationship that's very strange to me. But that's, again, you mentioned old school in your comedy constantly. Well, I'm 64. You said you were 61?
Yeah.
All right. So we're around about the same, born in the early 60s. It's changed so drastically. From the past, I know it's just a recent thing for you, relatively 13 years. From the past, who are the comedians you could cite for me that really had an influence?
Jackie Gleason. He's my favorite.
Great one. A great one.
I grew up watching The Honeymooners, and there's a reason for that. As a kid, growing up with all this fear and getting bullied and all that, I remember just like being in so much pain and crying and being emotional. And then at nighttime, watching The Honeymooners, I would just cry tears of joy and laughter. He's always been my idol. Jackie Gleason. I think Jackie Gleason and Al Carney were the best 1-2 punch in comedy.
Greg, I used to watch The Odd Couple and The Honeymooners back to back on
Yeah.
channel. I think it came on 11 o'clock and 11:30 every night without fail.
Yeah, I referenced Jackie Gleason on my one-man show called The Shoemaker's Son that I just did about a year ago. And I talk about one of my favorite lines when he talks about how many times I got to drive these bus up and down Madison Avenue. He says, I just the other day, some woman with a great big hat and a big cat. She tried to get on the bus, and I was like, "Listen, lady, you can't bring this cat on the bus." She goes, "Are you kidding me? You know how expensive this cat is? He's that expensive. Let him take a cab." You know, he's the best. Jackie Gleason was the best.
The only one that the only one that could stand up to him, Greg, was Audrey Meadows.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've heard stories about Audrey that when she first auditioned, they were like, "She's way too beautiful."
That's exactly what Jackie said.
Yeah, and then she came back, not
That's
looking
right.
all hot and whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, and she got the part, but she was great. She was perfect. That cast was amazing, and I just got back from Greece, and on the way to Greece, I was watching The Hustler with
Oh,
Paul
great.
Newman.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my God, what a
Jackie,
great movie! Yeah,
George C.
George
Scott.
C. Scott, Paul Newman, and there's a line when Paul Newman is drinking his brains out and he's like in awe with the Minnesota Fats, Jackie Gleason's like, look at him. Look at those beautiful, chubby little fingers, the little sausage fingers, the way he's holding his stick. Fast Eddie Feldman. And as a kid, I grew up in pool halls too. I knew a lot of the great, a lot of pool sharks, a lot of hustlers,
That was supposed to be, I think it was Aces in Midtown Manhattan. It was supposed to be, if it wasn't an actual pool hall, it was patterned after a pool hall in Manhattan. And he said, yeah, he's like he's playing, when he's shooting, he's like he's playing the violin.
Yeah, he was referencing his little sausage fingers, his little fat fingers,
Jackie had a thing where he didn't rehearse.
No.
Rest of the cast rehearsed by themselves, and Jackie would come on at the very end and go through the run through. But he really didn't rehearse. That wasn't his thing. He wanted to be spontaneous. He wanted to be spontaneous. He thought that spontaneity was going to go out the window if he rehearsed too much. So it was fantastic. I grew up on that show myself.
Yeah, I grew up on that show, and you know, I'm a big Twilight Zone fan also. Rod Serling was amazing.
You have a favorite episode?
That's just it. Between the Honeymooners and the Twilight Zone, you can't have a favorite episode because they're all so great.
They are.
They're all so great, you know.
You know which one comes to mind? Talking Tina. If you remember the doll that talked, Telly Savalas.
Telly Savalas. Yeah.
Twilight Zone. That comes to mind first. But all right, now get preparing now. Now it's not just jumping on stage like you did the first time. Now it's a whole ritual, I'm sure. Now, if you have a gig, right, and you're due to step on stage at 8 o'clock at night, maybe 10 o'clock at night. I don't know how it works. What do you do all day in the town that you're performing?
You know what? I'm a type of person, I get out of my way. And by what I mean by get out of my way, I don't overthink anything. You know, and that's one of the advantages of living in the moment. You know, from the moment I get on stage, that's it. I'm Greg Kritikos, New York's funny man. Before that, I could be Greg. You know, I have fun, laugh, joke, whatever. I have my toolbox of jokes that always work. If I need to go to my toolbox, I'll just throw it out there. You know, these are guaranteed jokes that are always gonna laugh, you know. I like to read my crowd, you know, get an idea of like, you know, what they're looking for. And that's it. And just get on stage. I just headlined at Governor's in Long Island last Saturday night. And those are like 4 comics, and I ended up doing like 30 minutes. And it went great. You know, I have another show right now coming up that I'm headlining. As a matter of fact, I'm headlining like 3, 4 different shows coming up. And every time it's just a different experience, you know?
What's the best audience? What town, what state, you know, where in this country is the best audience? Do you have a place, your favorite?
I mean, one of my favorite, you know, I mean, when I hit the Bing Crosby Theater and I was on stage at the great Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington State, I remember, like, you know, saying my first joke about Sprague, and they call it Sprague, and I call it Sprague, you know, and everybody's looking at me like, you know, I had this woman one time, I'm walking. Well, what the point I'm trying to make is that if I go towards like the Northwest, I'm so animated, you know, they get a kick out of me because they're like, to give you an example, I'm in the supermarket in Washington State. It's like the 3rd day I'm there. It's Spokane. And this woman is like looking at me from the corner of her eye. And she's like, hello. She walks over to me, hello. She goes, are you from New York? I said, yes. She goes, oh my God, your voice. She goes, look, kids. And she looked, she had like 2, 3 kids. She goes, look, kids, a real New York gangster. Look.
Yeah, they're automatically gangster, she said.
Yeah. So I looked at her, I said, what? She goes, oh, you're a real New York gangster. I said, yeah, and I'm in hiding. And now we have a problem.
The witness protection program.
Yeah, because a lot of people, you know, I have one of my good friends out there, William Bassan, you know, when I first met him out there, he actually thought, he goes, Greg, to be honest with you, he said, you know, when I first met you, I thought you were in a witness protection program.
You know, right out of Goodfellas. But the thing is, you know, we have a reputation. You know, I was born in New Jersey, but in the metropolitan area, I don't have the accent that you have. You know, you have I know you're a Queens guy. You don't have to tell me. I know you're a Queens guy. I know accents. I know Brooklyn from Queens, Staten Island from Brooklyn. I can tell who's from where. I can tell. But the thing is, when you go elsewhere, you stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, if you're Oklahoma, Nebraska, whatever, you know, Washington, you know, everybody turns. When you open your mouth, they turn. Has that New York accent helped you or hindered you?
I don't really know. I don't give it too much thought. I mean, I remember doing a show in Idaho, and my opening line was so funny because, you know, it wasn't that many people. I think it was about 150 people. And I went on stage and I said, Idaho. I go, you never hear that word in New York. Never. The only time you hear it is when a prostitute's confessing. And you can actually hear a pin drop. They were like, and
Oh,
then
they didn't
they didn't,
react.
one guy in the back goes, oh, the hoe. And the room exploded. I said, thank you for explaining the joke. And the room started, and then from there, they just, I just started eating. One of the things that I've learned, in comedy, because, quote unquote, comedians, the difference between a comedian and a writer is a writer will write things down.
Yeah.
So I like to write things down, that have like one little tagline could be 3 minutes of comedy, And what I realized is that if I'm in a room and I'm doing my comedy and a certain part of the room is not really getting it and the other part is getting it, I'm not gonna waste my energy on trying to get the part of the room that's not getting it, make them laugh, because I don't want to lose the other side.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of comedians have that problem. They get stuck because there's somebody in the front row staring at them like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
go ahead,
They're not gonna
make
laugh no matter what. They're not
yeah,
gonna.
make me laugh. Make me
Yeah.
laugh. Like I dare you. These are people that are like, honestly, you got to be an idiot to go to a comedy club and to have this attitude. Like, go ahead, make me laugh. I dare you. Like, why are you even wasting your time? Go. I don't
Right.
waste my energy on these people. Where a lot of comedians, I've seen them lose the room.
Well,
I
you saw Michael Richards go haywire and ruin his career, right?
Well, Michael Richards, he read lines. He was an actor that read lines. I don't know if he did comedy before that, because when you're on stage all by yourself, it's a totally different animal.
Yeah, I think he did stand up in the past, but I don't know. His anger came out. Whether it was, I think he was on some kind of substance that night. Something was really off, but he went off his rocker.
Might have been. There's nothing. There's nothing worse than a falling star.
Did you ever get to the point where you say, "Yeah, I like that bit. I like that joke, but maybe it doesn't suit this audience."
Nah, I'm always, one of the things when I did P Diddy Bad Boys of Comedy with A.G. White. And he had actually got me my first time to get on Caroline's. He came up to me, AG, a very dear friend of mine, very big comic. He said to me, listen, Greg, never change. Always be yourself, man. He goes, when you're on here, be yourself. And then Mark DeMeo, I grew up with Mark DeMeo, another very funny comic. He said, Greg, always be yourself. So I've taken, this input from friends of mine, comedy friends, and I've just build it. I don't know how to be anybody else but me. And if you don't like me, there's nothing I can do. You can't cater to everybody in comedy. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
if I'm gonna get on stage and falsify who I am, it's not gonna work.
What do you do when you get a heckler? I know what you do when you lose the room. These guys that don't want to laugh. What do you do when you get a heckler? Some guy that's out of control, or some woman maybe, but usually a guy.
I had a woman one time. She was like really heckling me, and then at one point, people were like telling her to shut up and screaming. I said, "Stop." I said, everybody, please, 1 second. I said, excuse me, ma'am, I'm working here. When you work, I don't come home and rip the mattress underneath you, do I?
That'll do it.
She
Did
shut
she?
the she
Did she
shut
get?
up.
Did she even get the joke? I hope so.
Yeah, well, she got it because everybody was laughing. And then at the Bing Crosby Theater, it's online also. I remember this woman, as the applaud was coming down, after they introduced me, Nick Dijksman introduced me. She says, "Oh my God!" She goes, "Hey," all you hear is a voice. Hey, do you own a diner? I love Greek food. So I just kind of improv. I walked towards the back of the stage. I said, "Anybody Greek back there?" No. And then I walked to the edge of the stage and I looked right at her, and I said, "Hey, you like the white sauce, don't you? You like the white sauce? Is that what you like? The white sauce? The tzatziki?" She was quiet. She was heckling Charles Murphy the next day because when I was touring, Charles Murphy ended up doing Sunday night. Saturday night, I was at the Bing Crosby Theater with a bunch of comics. And then I got to meet Charles Murphy, God rest his soul, wonderful guy. The same woman that did that was heckling him. And she got to the point where, her and Charles got into a one-on-one. And Charles was like, "Hey, just shut the f up," because you paid to see me. Now shut the f up.
Yeah.
She was nuts. Alcohol does that to people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's crazy, but I don't like to give them too much attention.
Are you a big sports guy? Do you work out?
Yeah, I work out. I'm at the gym constantly. I'm a big Yankees fan. I've been following them since the '70s. I got the Bronx Zoo Yankees. Um, Football. I grew up watching Bob Greasy and the Dolphins. I love the Miami Dolphins. I'm a big Dolphin fan from back in the day. Basketball. What can you say about basketball? New York, they're terrible, man.
Well,
I don't
I
know.
remember the '69.
Win the championship.
I'm old enough to remember the '69 Knicks, Greg, and that the '69-'70 Knicks were
Oh wow.
the best team I've ever seen. I used to go to the Garden with my father. Now dig this, what they charge these days. I actually sat just about courtside. How much money do you think I paid? My father paid. Actually, I was a kid. How much did he think he paid for a ticket at the Garden, prime seats in 1969-'70?
I don't know. I would say like $5.
Yeah, how about $8 to sit there watch and the astronomical prices they charge these days? The Garden was fantastic. That was the best team I've ever seen, and that's how I remember the Knicks. I don't remember the Knicks. Maybe Bernard King later on, but that's really about it. But I'm a big basketball guy, big basketball player, so I like basketball, but those Knicks are disappointing. But and when you did working out and exercise prove to be a crucial part of your recovery?
Absolutely. Yeah. Fit is part of being mentally fit. Going to the gym and you feel better about yourself and all that, that helps. It all comes together. So I like to go to the gym every day. And you have no idea when you see the pictures, 385 pounds. If you go to my Facebook page and you look at Greg the Greek Facebook, you could get an idea how big I was. But really quick, I want to get back to the sports thing. I used to watch football in Shea Stadium. When I was a kid, we used to sneak into Shea Stadium and watch all these teams come in, the Cowboys, the Steelers, and we used to sneak in there, when we were kids. And I remember me and my friends throwing snowballs at the Pittsburgh Steelers linebackers as they were going under the tunnel. Jack Lambert. We threw a snowball, and he ripped his helmet off and just looked at us, Jack Lambert. Oh my God,
he's tough. You picked the toughest guy in football right there at the time. It was Dick Butkus and Jack Lambert. You're frozen again. Frozen again. Maybe you'll come out of it. All right.
Hello?
Now I got you, and I did keep going. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I wear skirts.
Okay.
How do you feel about sports today as opposed to back then? I mean,
it's Greg. It's such a turnoff to me right now. I'm a big sports guy. I was a great base. I have to say, I sound like a big, conceited guy, but I was in the minor. I played big time.
Well, you look very fit. You look very fit. I wanted to tell you that.
In 1979 with the Philadelphia Phillies, so far I went through it all. But sports today is a far cry from sports in the past. What you're talking about night and day. Do you know what this guy just signed for? Or what this guy Soto for the Yankees is going to sign for? He's going to sign for $700 million. And that's going to run maybe a 10-year contract. Do you believe that?
With the Yankees?
Yeah, well, hopefully. I'm not a big Yankee fan. I'm a Met guy. I hope we're still friends. I'm a Mets guy. But he's going to sign with somebody for $700 million.
I know. How do you feel like you guys are still paying Bobby Bonilla? Are you guys still paying Bobby Bonilla?
No, it actually stopped this year. Now think about when he retired. Think about when he wasn't a Met anymore, and it just stopped in 2024.
That's so funny. Jesus Christ!
God.
it's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, but and this is what I admired about Steinbrenner in baseball. He knew, he that's why he went into his wallet. He was one of the first guys to start investing. He went after Catfish Hunter, he went after Jackson. Everybody criticized him for it, but he knew it. He had a vision and he understood the game of baseball that was going to be a business sooner than later.
You mentioned Catfish Hunter. I think he was the first guy, the first free agent that he signed, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, I believe so.
Reggie came later, Winfield. I mean, you had these guys. Winfield was Mr. May, never came through in the clutch. But I called Aaron Judge Mr. May, and people got mad at me. But he has a great 162 game season, and then in the clutch he falls apart. But it's a tough sport.
You got to make that catch, man. You got to make that catch.
You saw what he did, right? You saw he put his eye on the base runner. He took his eye off the ball just enough to have him drop that easy fly ball.
Yeah, I think that at that moment in a game like that, just make the out right away. Just don't worry about it. Make the out. And it was a bad choice on his part. And you know what? When you're making that kind of money, it's inexcusable.
The whole series he was pressing. The whole series he thought he had to do too much. If you saw the way he played, even his at bats, he was squeezing the bat really tight. But that fly ball, what he did was got underneath and just enough. He was distracted just enough to drop that. That was a disaster. That was a disaster. And then Aaron Boone takes out Cole in the first game after 88 pitches.
Wow.
You saw that, right? I mean, the guy's the best pitcher in baseball, and your bullpen isn't that great. You got to keep the guy in there, don't you think?
Absolutely.
But he had a good season.
I don't know, man. It was very disappointing. Again, it all started with that fly ball. If he makes that catch, if it's the impossible possibility,
You think the whole series turns around if he catches the ball?
I think so. I believe so. I think he makes that out. It's 2 outs now, and that's it. What are you worried about? You got a 5-0 lead. 5-0.
That was, I turned around. I heard it was 5-0, and I did some other chores. I came back. I couldn't get over. It was 5-5. I couldn't get over it, and that's not even my team. But I like to see New York win.
Yeah. Well, New York. Yeah.
What am I forgetting before we say goodbye? What should people know? And give me some dates and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, well, they can follow me on Facebook on the Greg Kritikos, Instagram, Greg Kritikos. I have a lot of shows coming up. My movie Scarred Angels is going to be all over the place. It's going to be in competition. But if they want to follow me, just follow me under Greg Kritikos, GregKritikos. And I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I hope to see them at a show. I'm always I'm going to be at Broadway Comedy Club. I'm at Broadway Comedy Club once a month. I headline over there. I have my own show, and plus I do spots at Broadway. So I've been working on Broadway for a long time, and I do a lot of independent shows. And I'll be in Wallington, New Jersey. Make wine with us. It's a winery in Wallington. I'll be there this. I believe, 1 second. I'll tell you right now. Sorry, just bear with me. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Wallington, New Jersey on the 16th. November 16th, I'll be at Wallington, New Jersey. Wallington. It's a winery. It's got BYOB. You bring your own booze, your own food. I've been producing shows there for close to 10 years.
Okay, so we got those dates. Everybody, show up and show your support for this comic here, because he's got the good stuff. And by the way, I went on your YouTube channel, and so what you have up there, not too many things, but what you have up there, you have a couple of hilarious bits up there. I was watching this afternoon, and I said, I got to watch something, and I'm going to interview this guy. I got to see what he can do. You were fantastic. I really appreciate you being with me. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you getting back to me. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. You and the wife Thank you so much for having me. I
We're
appreciate
gonna
it.
come to one of your. We're gonna come to one of your shows.
Yes. No doubt about it. Oh, by the way, I'm in Spokane and I'm doing my comedy, and some guy yells out, New York. I go, hey, you're from New York? He goes, yeah, I'm from New York. I go, what part of New York you from? He goes, Hoboken.
It's just about the same, you know. It's the
Well,
closest.
I go, Hoboken. He goes, yeah. He goes, hey, it's a train stop away, man. It's New York.
He's kind of right. He's kind of right. We'll give it to him.
I gave it to him.
I appreciate it, man. Take care.
You got it, buddy. Take care of yourself. Thank you.
All right, man.